In MBA classrooms, we learn about strategy, HR management, and organization behavior.
When you enter organization, it doesn't matter which company you work for. I think dignity and honesty or with respect is what we need to address. Being HR, you can't be perfect always.
Has any decisions that you've taken affected you personally?
So what you should know is how do you need to build a relationship, connect with people and convey the same message.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of BNMIT video podcast. Let's start the session with a small quote given by PT Doctor. He once said, management is doing things right and leadership is about doing the right things. In MBA classrooms, we often learn how to do things right, but we often fail how to do right things when people are involved. Welcome to C-Suite Secrets, where we learn about the human side of management that teaches beyond textbooks. I am Shakthi Priya, first year MBA student studying at BNM Institute of Technology. Today's episode is special for management students like me because we often study leadership in theory but rarely hear about what it feels like in the real life. With me is Professor Sandhya Yeriyuru Umesh, Assistant Professor in Management, who has previously worked as the head of HR and a consultant across organizations. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Shakthi Priya. It's very warm to be here and addressing the student audience, and the students must know all of these at the very early stage of their career.
As I said, ma'am, thank you so much. There was a former CEO who said that the hardest decision in management is not money, but the people. In MBA classrooms, we learn about strategy, HR management, and organization behavior. But what is the one people-related reality that students are not ready when they enter into an organization?
That's a good question. We teach restructuring as cases. We tell them what theories are, but we have never introduced them the people side. We fail to give them the actual insight that the integrity and the trust what we have for students, what we need to teach inside the classroom is where we fail. When you enter organization, it doesn't matter which company you work for or for which policy you're working for. What makes us how we treat people with honesty and dignity. And this is the bridge which we need to build between classroom and the industry.
Have you ever experienced a moment like that as a head of HR?
Oh, obviously. A few years back, a company which I was working for went through a restructuring, mainly in automation. So there were people who were working, for 10, 15 years, where they were supposed to be removed or lay off, I can say. It was not about the person, it was about the relevance of job. So when I was discussing this, one person asked me, I gave everything to the company. What did I do wrong and why it is to me? So this question, it stayed a very long with me. It is not about being a HR that I'm judgmental towards the company policy, but it is how I can convey it to the people about the relevance.
Since you said there was one question that stayed with you, how would you answer something like that?
I think dignity and honesty or with respect is what we need to address. Being HR, you can't be perfect always. So make sure that you convey it to them. And when you're conveying, it is not that a restructuring or any change in the organization, it just not affect your company. It might be someone's, mid-career crisis. They might be affecting with their kids' school fees or, some medical emergencies. So what you need to convey is with dignity and honesty and the transparency between you and the person and the trust what you need to build as a leader.
So there are many students who are wanting to get into a managerial role. What should we be emotionally prepared for?
I think 3 rules which I follow. A famous, CEO once told in a conversation that if you have 70% of clarity on any information, it's luxury for you. So don't go beyond, or behind for the clarity of information. Second, being leader, you can't be perfect. So don't be perfectionist. Third, your empathy and relevance to the organization will always try to pull you apart. Make sure you're grounded and address both the sides of the coin.
We have known that you worked in a consultant. Has it ever changed the way you see the organization?
I think yes, because being a consultant, you will see different organizations and their patterns of working. So each organization is different. It's not, a good plan or a great strategic plan which will make you fail. It is how you orient it, how you bring it in front of the people will make you fail. I have witnessed many companies, who might be very good with their plans, especially the strategic plans, but when they want to execute because of people, it is miserably they have failed.
So has any decisions that you've taken affected you personally?
Yes, in the initial stage of my career, I was into this policy words, or I was too wordy, and I always used to prefer to go with, with my language, what is there in the policy. Later, I got to know that being too formal is not the way to connect with the people. So what you should know is how do you need to build the relationship, connect with people and convey the same message so that they accept you, they trust you, and you grow together.
So what would be the one advice that you would give to the students who are entering their career?
One advice to the students, what I see is, don't treat human resource or people as resources. They are privileged to you. Have a wisdom to use that privilege wisely.
Thank you for sharing the information that we couldn't get in the textbook, ma'am.
It's my privilege to be part of this podcast, and it was nice speaking with you, Shakthi, Priya.
Thank you for everyone who's listening to the podcast. And that brings us to the end of C-Suite Secrets. And I would like to end it with a small quote saying management is not always about leading the team, but it's also about understanding the fellow employees who is with you. Thank you for watching.